Roe v. Wade. The same individuals who purport, claim to be protecting life, fight against universal health care. Do they believe in universal child care? Quite some time. I think the filibuster should be eliminated at the very least for constitutional questions like voting rights, like a woman's constitutional rights to make decisions about her own body. So if you can't lift it completely, lift it for those two things that have huge consequences for our country.
As a young mom, knowing that if any type of situation occurs where I might have to have an abortion, that I might have to go through a whole lot more legal action when it's my body, it's my decisions, it's my choices. I shouldn't have to go through processes or asking permission to be able to get the help that I need for myself personally.
Hello everyone, welcome to this edition of Vow. We talk about Roe versus Wade being overturned by the U.S. Supreme Court. Yes, Roe versus Wade, the landmark case from the 1972 case where a woman had the right to choose whether she wanted to keep her baby or not. We'll get to it in a minute. First thing first, join in the conversation using the hashtag VowHealConnect. And don't forget to subscribe. Subscribe is caring. Tell a friend, call a friend. Hit that subscribe button so you won't miss a thing here as we talk about Roe versus Wade being overturned. It's been the last time Roe versus Wade was overturned was 1992. Now, fast forward to 2022, 30 years later, it has been overturned again. Roe versus Wade was the landmark case where a woman had the right to choose to either keep her baby or not. Well, all this stuff with the center around women's rights and abortion has come to a head. Let's look back on what's going on with Roe versus Wade being overturned by the U.S. Supreme Court.
When the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade, it changed the status of American women as citizens under the Constitution. And this morning, that judicial decision is swiftly becoming hard law in states across the country, triggering anguished protests and joyful celebrations.
Abort this court! Abort this court!
Overnight, the tectonic shift by the Supreme Court causing two waves across the country. Americans in dozens of cities and states taking to the streets to denounce the decision to undo Roe versus Wade. While others celebrate a reversal achieved after decades of activism. And while most protests were peaceful, at times the two waves crashed. A truck running through protesters in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Police deploying tear gas against protesters at the Arizona State House. And tasing and detaining abortion rights protesters in Greenville, South Carolina. The Supreme Court decision Friday overturned nearly 50 years of a woman's right to choose abortion under the Constitution. The conservative majority on the bench clearing the way for individual states to restrict or outright ban abortion services. This morning, 8 states are enforcing bans with few exceptions, and an additional 18 are likely to ban or severely restrict abortion services in the coming weeks. Pressure is growing on President Biden from within his own party. 34 Democratic senators urging him to, quote, take every step available to help women access abortions.
It also means asking the President of the United States to make abortion as available as possible with the tools he has, including medication abortion, including using federal lands as a place where abortions can occur.
The White House says it will challenge states that try to stop women from traveling across state lines to receive abortion services, but Biden says the larger issue is one for the voters in November. A fight anti-abortion rights advocates are ready for.
I cried. I don't usually cry. But, and it's not the end. It's the beginning of a lot to do, to protect babies.
As you saw right there, the U.S. Supreme Court laying down the law, 5-4 majority conservative justices voted for Roe versus Wade to be overturned. And this was already being previewed beforehand. If the courts had said that Roe versus Wade was going to be overturned, it would be overturned. And now, fast forward, it has been overturned. Roe versus Wade is a landmark case that dated back to 1972. Let's look back at the history of Roe versus Wade.
We say pro-choice. We say pro-choice. No peace. No peace.
Right there, see, you saw a brief history of Roe versus Wade and what it's all about. We ain't gonna sugarcoat. We know that women have the right to choose what they want to, and they have their own rights to make sure it be in effect. So hopefully Roe versus Wade will set a new precedent of being back to where it once was. A woman has a right to choose to her own body. All right, let's hear what you people had to say out there about Roe versus Wade being overturned.
Every single one of us has woken up today with less rights than we had yesterday. And pregnant people in particular are in more danger in the United States today than we were yesterday as a result of the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. The same individuals who purport, claim to be protecting life, fight against universal health care. Do they believe in universal child care? Do they believe in life after birth? A party and individuals who claim to protect the lives of children just weeks after over a dozen children died in Texas now claim to support their life, the lives of the young. Who are we protecting? Who does this protect? We are talking about a court with the majority of justices appointed by a party that has not won a popular presidential election more than once in 30 years, ruling against the majority of Americans. We have a Senate that is controlled by minority rule. And we have a House suffering from the impacts of gerrymandering that amplifies and undermines our democracy. We are in a very dangerous moment, not just for women, not just for LGBT communities, not just for all of us, but we are in a dangerous moment in the world because this is not just about the right to choice. This is about rule of law and democracy, and who is a full person in the eyes of the law. But to all of those who are watching today's events unfold in fear, in anger, in rage, in depression, in anxiety, one thing will remain steady: that we will not stop fighting until this is fixed. And I say that to my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. We are not going away. We stay. We fight. We push. And and we will not be silenced. With that, I yield back to the gentleman. Thank you very much.
My uterus, my body, my choice, and I am here for every woman that couldn't come to Washington today. I was about 20 when Roe became law. I've watched several generations of women grow in freedom, and I'm revolted by the injustice of this court and the hypocrisy that gives states the right to not regulate guns, but to think that they can regulate women's bodies. So I'm here to protest. As a young mom, knowing that if any type of situation occurs where I might have to have an abortion, that I might have to go through a whole lot more legal action when it's my body, it's my decisions, it's my choices. I shouldn't have to go through processes or asking permission to be able to get the help that I need for myself personally.
I think that we took a huge step backwards. I am just sickened. I feel like I was punched in the stomach this morning, and I am actually very happy to be in DC, to be here to protest my thoughts.
I'm sick and tired of having to come here for so many years and still protest what's really my right.
Who are we protecting?
These questions. What's the bottom line for women watching at home this morning? What are their options? Where does that stand in the country right now? If this is a situation that you're facing or you fear you could face at some point in the future?
Well, first of all, David, I think not only board certified OBGYNs, but certified nurse midwives and nurse practitioners and physician's assistants, everyone in the medical profession who has dedicated their lives to taking care of women, are concerned, but we remain committed medically to providing safe reproductive health care to women. And I want to be clear, this is not just a women's health issue. This affects men in these women's lives, their fathers, their sons, their partners. And reproductive health is not just women's health, it's a human health. So I think that what's important right now for women to know is, there will always be options, medical options, surgical options. The key is protecting 2 lives when a woman is pregnant, not just the life of the woman and the mother carrying that fetus, but the fetus as well. And there are medical conditions that literally put both of those lives at stake. Obviously there are a plethora of other issues involved when we talk about abortion, but medically, this is literally oftentimes a life or death issue. And I think that the healthcare professionals who were there yesterday will be there today and tomorrow to help these women.
Who are we?
Led in part because they wanted to be misled. They had.
They knew that this was going on.
They either knew or they were blind to what the history of the people before them. Anyone who is surprised by this is not paying attention. So these people were selected for this purpose. It's a 50-year campaign, and you've got to give the other side, lots of points for their relentlessness, their total commitment to getting what they want done, regardless of who's hurt by it and regardless of who's stripped of rights.
Is this a time for the Democrats to take on the filibuster, do you think?
Well, I've been saying for quite some time, I think the filibuster should be eliminated at the very least for constitutional questions like voting rights, like a woman's, constitutional rights to make decisions about her own body. So if you can't lift it completely, lift it for those 2 things that have huge consequences for our country.
A lot of you people had a lot to say about Roe versus Wade being overturned. This battle continues on in the Supreme Court. It's going to be an uphill battle before a lot of people testifying and supporting, and even some people that's who's against it, and some people who are for it. So it's an uphill battle, and it'll continue on going as time progresses. Thank you all for watching this edition of Vibes. We talk about Roe versus Wade being overturned. I've been your host, Kendrick Dixon, saying so long. Thank you all for watching.